Hello?
What's up, Baker?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Exhausted after researching your story. But would you like to be featured on this channel?
I do.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I do.
Alright then, let's get into it.
Baker Mayfield isn't that talented.
And now firing downfield, a wide open Brett Favre. A 96-yard touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield.
It's my fault that I expected him to be a superstar, that I expected him to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback.
Mayfield is being charged with public intoxication, disorderly conduct, fleeing, and refusal to submit to arrest.
There's Baker Mayfield. Yeah, I know he's overrated as hell.
Baker Mayfield is going to fail in the NFL if he does not get his act together.
April 4th, 1995, in Austin, Texas, James and Gina Mayfield were gifted their second son, Baker. At an early age, the competitive spirit we all know today started when Baker desperately wanted to win every board game against his family. Whether it was ping pong, checkers, hide and seek, throwing competitions, or a game of pig or horse in the driveway. He approached and practiced everything he did with a sense of having fun, but also with the intention of winning.
Everything about having a ball in his hand and just always playing. So
around middle school, he became close friends with his 2019 backup, Garrett Griffin, and the gang of friends will hang out nearly every day after school, but more specifically during the summertime, playing pool, backyard baseball, rumble fumble, and pickup basketball. And that competitive spirit continued to show as he was the group's trash-talking little brother.
You could tell Baker was going to be a quarterback, and he'd stick his nose in there with the big kids, and he was always a competitor.
Who was not only the youngest, but also the smallest at about 5'2", yet to hit his growth spurt. They even gave him the nickname Fat 12-year-old Kid. But for Baker, sticking up for himself, trash-talking back, is what kept him around. He grew up an Oklahoma fan and attended many games throughout his childhood. And he idolized Brett Favre, even to the point where he created Favre's draft pick to the T.
Brett texted me back. He said, LOL classic, good luck, brother. Hey, we might want to change this to ESPN real quick. I think we broke the internet.
But entering high school at Lake Travis High, Baker was still the smallest on the team, at about 5'2", 125 pounds wet.
Was a good athlete, but he was just one of the late bloomers, I think, out of the freshman class. But
he remembered the first day of camp, someone saying, "Who's that little midget back there throwing darts?" And at Lake Travis is where he developed his hop step to deliver the football down the field. But besides his height limitations, he was a great athlete. He had everything but the size to be the Lake Travis starting quarterback. Not to mention, Lake Travis was stacked at the quarterback position, and all of them would eventually go on to play D1. Baker wouldn't see much of the field as a quarterback until his junior year. By the summer of 2011, he sprouted up to about 5'10", and was at battle with Colin Lagasse, whose main position was receiver, but Lake Travis liked taller guys at the QB position, and Baker just didn't fit that. But that entire summer, they were at battle, and eventually Baker lost it again. However, Colin was injured on the first series of the Cavaliers' 2011 season opener against rival Westlake. Then Baker entered and started throwing darts. He finished the game 19 of 26 for 278 yards and a touchdown to go along with 106 yards on the ground and 2 additional scores. After that game, Baker took the Cavaliers on a run as the new leader, and the doubters that was in his ear just fueled him throughout the season. 4 months later, he led the Cavaliers to their 5th straight state championship. He threw for 3,700 yards and 45 touchdowns, with 750 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground. And as a senior, he kept the train rolling, but fell short in the playoffs as they were knocked off in the first round. But he had a solid senior season, completing 63% of his passes for 2,400 yards and 22 touchdowns with 3 interceptions on the season. All in all, he finished his high school career totaling 6,200 passing yards, 67 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He was a 3-star recruit, ranked as the 43rd best QB and the 1,029th player in his recruiting class. But he was considered too small to play D1 football. He wanted to play at TCU, which they showed heavy interest in him, but they didn't pull the trigger. Baker said TCU told him that they were going to offer him a scholarship, so he told other schools that showed interest, like Washington State, Florida Atlantic, and Rice, he wasn't interested because he for sure thought he was going to be a horned frog. But once signing day came, he had nothing on the table. Left with no other option, he walked on at Texas Tech because of the in-state tuition costs made financial sense for his parents.
Let's think walk on. And that was not very well received.
Excited to still be playing football, but angry at the same time for being overlooked, he took the field for Texas Tech with everything he had. Shortly before the start of the season, he was named the starting quarterback and became the first walk-on true freshman ever to start a season opener at the QB position on a D1 level. In Week 1 against SMU, he passed for 413 yards and 4 touchdowns. His 43 completions of 60 attempts broke a school record held by Billy Joe Tolliver. For his performance, he was named Big 12 Conference Offensive Player of the Week, being the first freshman Texas Tech quarterback to be honored that since 1999. He will go on to lead Texas Tech to a 5-0 start before getting sidelined with a knee injury. Then head coach Kingsbury had to make do without him. The Red Raiders went 5-2 with 5 straight losses to close out the season. Baker was back healthy in mid-November, but never returned to the field. There was some lack of communication problems with Baker and his head coach, which left Baker angry because he was back healthy and wasn't playing, while they were still losing, and he just didn't understand why. To end the season, he wound up finishing with 2,300 yards on 218 of 340 completions with 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, which earned him Big 12 Conference Freshman Offensive Player of the Year for the 2013 season. Due to the problems between him and Kingsbury, and after learning he wasn't going to receive a scholarship the following spring, he announced he would be leaving the program.
Baker obviously decided to leave the program.
With his father having connections with some of the Oklahoma coaching staff, plus Baker being a fan since a child, giving the Sooners a chance was a no-brainer. Here, Baker would still have to walk on to the team. However, he had to sit out the 2014 season due to Texas Tech not signing him over. The Big 12 had a rule that if a player transfers within a conference, they lose a year of eligibility and have to sit out that season. But that loss of eligibility could be waived by the player's former school, but Texas Tech denied his request to do that. So he had to wait until the NCAA gave Oklahoma an extra scholarship slot to truly become part of the team. And after leading the scout team for the 2014 season, right before the first kickoff in the 2015 season, he was officially named the starting quarterback for the Sooners. In his first start against Akron, he threw for 388 yards and 3 touchdowns. He announced himself to the world on national TV with 187 yards and 3 touchdowns in a double overtime win at Tennessee in Week 2. He started off very slow in the game, not even reaching midfield until the 13th mark of the 4th quarter. And Oklahoma had to come back from a 13-point deficit to win the game by a score of 31-24. In his first season as a Sooner, Mayfield finished the year with 3,700 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He would go on to finish 4th in the Heisman voting, but leading the Sooners to the playoffs that season, he had his first viral moment where he broke out his dance moves right before the game. But that hype and energy didn't transfer to the field as they lost to Clemson 37-17. 2016, the Sooners started off very slow, losing 2 of their first 3 games before going on a 10-game winning streak. But during Week 7 of that season, Baker was back where he first started his college career at Texas Tech. In the high-atmosphere game, the fans were letting Baker have it as they were yelling, "F*** you, Baker." And the student section even had special shirts that read the word traitor across them. But in the historic matchup against Patrick Mahomes, Baker had one of his best games under the lights. He had 545 passing yards and 7 touchdowns, which broke several single-game records. And the Sooners came out on top, 66-59. But after another successful season with 3,900 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, he finished as a finalist for the Heisman, but also fell short again, finishing 3rd in the voting. The 2016 season was a very tight year to make the playoffs, so just falling short, they were stuck with the Sugar Bowl against Auburn, where he helped lead the Sooners to a 35-19 victory and finished with 19 of 28 attempts for 296 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, earning him the MVP award. In 2017 is where Baker probably had one of his worst years in the media for not some of the best things.
911, what's your emergency?
19 Sergeant is Central. 19 Sergeant check. He's walking eastbound.
It all started just 2 months after the Sugar Bowl on February 25th, 2017. He was arrested in Fayetteville, Arkansas on charges of public intoxication, disorderly conduct, fleeing, and resisting arrest. See, the police were called to a scene where a fight had just happened, and Baker was one of the guys trying to break it up.
According to court documents, some kind of altercation was taking place. It's unclear exactly what happened, but Mayfield told the officers he was trying to break up a fight. Police say they tried to get a statement from Mayfield, but he was intoxicated, covered in food, had slurred speech, and was causing a scene.
As the police continued to try to question him, out of nowhere he just took off and started running, but was immediately tackled into the wall.
Oh my God! I'm done! Are you kidding me?
After being booked in jail for the night, 3 days later, he took his apology to Twitter, basically calling the incident the biggest mistake of his life. And he said he felt shame, guilt, and embarrassment over what had happened and took sole responsibility. He apologized to every single person that was affected by the incident and vowed to earn their respect.
Stuff like that. What I did was a mistake. I put myself in a bad position, especially, playing quarterback here. I can't do that.
He reached a plea deal with the Fayetteville District Court, and the charges of resisting arrest was dropped, but he was ordered to pay a $100 fine on each of his 3 charges, $160 in court costs, and $483.20 in restitution. As for his punishment from the university, he was required to perform 35 hours of community service and participate in alcohol education services at the school. Fast forward to the season, Baker was in his bag as he wasn't backing down to a single soul. It started after blowing out UTEP in week 1, 56-7. He completed 19 of 20 passes, including 16 straight completions to start the game, but threw for 329 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then when Baker and the Sooners headed up north to Columbus for a rematch with the Buckeyes, he was unstoppable in Oklahoma's 31-16 win, completing 77% of his passes for 386 yards and 3 touchdowns, all of which came in the second half. But after the game, he would get himself in trouble when he grabs the Oklahoma's flag, waves it in the air, and with teammates surrounding him at midfield, plants it into the Buckeyes logo. It was truly blown out of proportion by the media, which led him to apologize just 2 days later for his second time that year.
I didn't mean it to be disrespectful at all. I mean, we do the flag thing at OU Texas, and so that's just something that I got caught up in, an emotional moment, and it should have been something I did in the locker room, so I apologize for doing it in the middle of the field.
But if we pause for a second and fast forward to 2018 against the 49ers, Joey gets his payback as he mimicked the flag plant, saying, "I think everybody knows what I did that for. I just wanted to get payback." He had it coming.
I think everybody knows what that was for. Just wanted to get payback. He had it coming.
But back to the 2017 season, Baker still wasn't letting up. After winning 7 of the next 8 games, in week 11 against Kansas, he would hit the headlines again. During the coin toss, he attempted to shake hands with the Kansas captains, but they refused to shake his hand. Fired up, Baker began to clap his hands as he walked back. Tension escalated throughout the game as Baker kept chirping across the field to the Jayhawks sideline, and also to the Kansas fans behind the Oklahoma bench.
He also has 1 win. Go cheer on basketball.
But that fire grew after he took a late hit to the head, then shortly after tossing a 3-yard touchdown pass to put the game away in the second half. He then stared down the Kansas sideline again, grabbing his manhood and yelling "F you" several times. After that game, once again he was left apologizing for his 3rd time that year.
What I did was unacceptable, and so I apologize. It's disrespectful. It's not the example I want to set. It's not the legacy I want to leave at OU.
A very, very chippy, emotional game, but we can't have that, and he can't do that.
But his actions led him to a brief suspension the following week on senior night against West Virginia, but only for the first series of play as Kyler took over. But besides the behavior alone, Baker had another successful season with 4,600 yards, 43 touchdowns on 6 interceptions, with 311 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground. For his third year in a row, he was a finalist for the Heisman. But as they say, third time is the charm, as he would become the winner this time around as he received 86% of the possible points, which is the third highest percentage in Heisman history, and became the first and only walk-on player to ever win the Heisman Trophy. But his college career ended one game short of the national championship with a heartbreaking double overtime loss to the Bulldogs in the highest scoring Rose Bowl in history, 54-48. Despite throwing for 287 yards and 2 touchdowns and catching a touchdown pass, he left the game with some advice from the Bulldogs.
Humble yourself! Humble yourself!
Can't believe it's over. Been a wild ride.
With the season finish, he broke his own single-season passer rating with 198.9%. But as a Sooner, he finished his career with a 34-6 record, never really losing a true road game. He made a giant jump on the draft boards and finished the season with high first-round expectations. A couple weeks before the draft, he was caught in a live with a hashtag #GetMeToMiami. He later said he mentioned Miami because he was talking to a former Sooner and the then Dolphins receiver Kenny Stills, saying, "Everybody can relax. I will play anywhere that gives me a chance. I'm not picky. I will go anywhere." And after that, we all know where he ended up at, with the first overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. And after replacing Tyrod Taylor, who suffered a concussion, with the Browns down 14-0, Baker went 17 of 23, passing for 200 yards as the Browns came back and prevailed 21-17, ending their winless streak at 19 games. And after that, he has been the starter for the Browns ever since. But that year, he led the Browns to a 7-8-1 record, being their best record since 2007, with 3,700 passing yards and 27 touchdowns. After finishing with a 6-10 record in the 2019 season, he seemed to be back his old dominant self in 2020, as the Browns finished the regular season 11-5 and made their first playoff appearance since 2002. He finished the regular season with 3,500 passing yards and 26 touchdowns on 8 interceptions. In the wildcard round against Pittsburgh, he went for 263 passing yards and 3 touchdowns during the 48-37 win, leading the Browns to their first playoff victory since the 94-95 season. But even after losing to the Chiefs in the divisional round, Baker has had one of his best seasons yet. It is going to be interesting to see where the 25-year-old takes this organization moving forward. But like always, if you enjoyed this content, don't be afraid to hit that like for me and subscribe with notifications on. It's your boy Cam. Stay healthy, stay hydrated. Until the next one, I'm gone.